I drank some Smart Water today. I decided to kick it old school. I love Smart Water. It's my favorite bottled water. Smart Water always adds an extra bounce to my step. Whenever I drink Smart Water, it makes me feel like Jennifer Aniston on The Rebound. And I get a holla for a-hole Abe coming eventually. Holla! All the way up your anus hole. Good Shabbos. Mom Donnie groupies excluded. Holla, thank you very much. My daughter's 15 now. Yet it seems like yesterday when my wife's friend from college got her fairy wings for Christmas. And my daughter puts on the fairy wings. And I say, no fairy wings. Fairy wings are off the list. My daughter looks like an overdose at the limelight waiting to happen. I signed my son up for a little league last year, and I regret it. Not because he struck out more than Charlie Sheen did at the AVN Awards this year, but because his little league team played another team in Westchester County called the Westchester Elites. Let me repeat that. His little league team played another team in Westchester County called the Westchester Elites. Imagine that investor phone call to Hillary, that being Hillary Clinton, that being Hillary Hammer Time Cankles. Hillary, how would you like to invest in a little league team called the Westchester Elites? And after Hillary is done drenching her poncho, Hillary says, I do have a spirit cooking dinner coming up next month. How little are these little leaguers? Exactly. Can I get a holla for a-hole Abe coming up eventually? Holla, thank you very much. I don't like my father feeling superior to Rick Pitino ever. So he hired a bunch of prostitutes to bang his players whenever they wanted. Can you imagine Rick Pitino in court? Guilty as charged, Your Honor. Guilty as charged. I make sure that my big men get fed down below. Holla! A-hole Abe coming up eventually. Thank you very much. How cheap is the left? How cheap is the left these days? They can't even hire a professional assassin to take out Trump in Butler, PA. I'm watching The Pit with my wife, and I'm overdosing on more woke again. And there's this crazy shooting, and this bodies left and right, filling up the ER. And I'm thinking, where was this assassin when the left needed that guy to get the job done? And instead, all the left could do, because they're so cheap, all they could do was scrounge Reddit for some pimple faced intern that wasn't even old enough to pull the trigger finger yet. Can I get a holla for a-hole Abe? Holla, thank you very much. So my daughter got a nose piercing, and she looks great. Her new nickname is Shira of the Night. Holla! She pulls it off miraculously. Now, I'm okay with it outside of the fact that the nose piercing every other day reminds me of Anhoni Patel, which rubs me the wrong way because Anhoni Patel went out of her way to tell everyone at my friend Koopy's party that she refused to play spin the bottle with me. And Honey Patel was no Mindy Kaling in the making, no offense. And I don't know how she's developed since, but back then, and Honey Patel was flatter than Juno after she sliced off her tits. A-hole, Alexa, a-hole, Abe, and Doodle Dad over here. Not being too far removed from the equation. Holla! A-hole. Abe, thank you very much. Why I wish that LeVar Ball could have been my substitute coach dad growing up, because LeVar Ball would have made sure that I got to first base before my younger brother did. He threw me a house party and only invite stuck up Jenny from the block. Now I'm in the basement with stuck up Jenny. Jenny's looking around the room, freaking out, bugging out, more confused than ever because it's just me, stuck up Jenny, and LeVar Ball. And all of a sudden, LeVar Ball gets up and stuck up Jenny's ear and starts barking. Stuck up Jenny, that Yoo-hoo bottle doesn't spin itself, bitch. Can I get a holla for? A-hole, LeVar Ball, holla, good job as Kanye exploded. Thank you very much. So I stopped taking weed edibles during the week ages ago because they kept on kicking in after I thought my daughter was asleep already. And I feel super stoner slow whenever my daughter would ask me these super deep questions after the edibles had kicked in already. One night, my daughter says, Daddy, if God created the universe, then who created God? Then 5,000 Mississippis later, I come up with God went back in time in a time machine made by Elon Musk. And my daughter says, real convincing, Daddy. Thanks for making me an atheist at 4. And keep on doing those edibles. Can I get a holla for Turtle Lives? Holla! Dog Ellen forevermore! Thank you very much! And then to make matters worse, later that night, my daughter says, Daddy, what do you do after you talking me in at night? And I say, before or after mommy goes to sleep? And she says, after. And then I get super cagey, defensive, and I blurt out, I squeeze in some me time. A grown up self care, all right? Can I get a holla for more deplorable daddy dash decades? Holla! A-hole Abe lives! Thank you very much. While we're on the subject of super stoner slow, mang, Kyle lives, mang, Kyle Wangar lives, mang. While we're on the subject of super stoner slow, while we're on the subject of stupid stoner slow, while we're on the subject of super stoner slow, mang. Kawanga lives. Holla! I wanted to break up a time when I was listening to a interview with Joe Rogan, and he's interviewing Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler is talking about a time where he saw Judas Priest at Radio City back in the day, And of course, the moment Adam Sandler mentions Judas Priest, Joe Rogan has to throw on his old school meathead cap and says, "They tricked us! They tricked us!" And I'm thinking, Rob Halford, Metal Howler Supreme, belting out hits such as Point of Entry, Sin After Sin, and Grinder! Like it for me! And assless chaps in the Blue Oyster Bar, in Police Academy, from 1 through 7, weren't dead giveaways, Joe. Granted, Grinder wasn't a thing yet. Still, there's Stoner Slow Joe, but this is getting ridiculous. Can I get a holla for more? A-hole, abage, all the way up your anus holage. Holla, thank you very much. Uh, so I've always loved reading to my daughter, and last summer I rediscovered these amazing poems by Charles Bukowski, my favorite writer by far. And I'm reading these Charles Bukowski poems to myself. I'm sipping an IPA. I'm on a deck. I'm overlooking Lake Tahoe. And my dad decides to bond with my daughter with his back turned towards me. And my dad says to my daughter, "What is he doing?" And I yell back, "Reversing your legacy of dumpy assholishness. If you really need to know, can I get a holla for the Big Bear Bukowski striking again? Holla! A holage, abage up your anus holage again. Holla! Thank you very much." Why isn't Marv Albert? Let me rephrase that. Marv Albert, the legendary, fearless, play by play broadcaster for the New York Knicks. That Marv Albert. I'm talking to you, Generation X. That Marv Albert is the true unsung hero of the LBGTQ plus community. He carried on an affair with a retired Broadway trans dancer for a solid 15 years straight. Eddie Murphy picking up a trans prostitute during a lonely West Hollywood night is mere child's play in comparison. Huh. And this is an impression of Eddie in the middle of getting a golden shower by that trans prostitute. Lemonade! That cool, refreshing drink. Can I get a holla for more? A-holage, abage, Herman Melville lives. Rubber dub dub dush dush dush. Oscar Wilde can't take no more. A-hole Abe, bound for glory. Thank you very much. My $1 million question is this, America. Bernie Mac lives. Holla! Everyone in the biz, everyone in Hollywood knew that Cosby was drugging and raping women at will for 4 decades in a row. So my question, my $1 million question is for a comedian that lived in the clubs throughout the 80s and 90s. My $1 million question is this: where were your powers of observation then, Jerry? Can I get a holla for? A-hole Abe lives. Holla! Thank you very much. Why is it always bipolar's fault? Why can't you be excessively depressed because you have to remain tight-lipped around your wife because all of a sudden you're forced to be in the same room with your unhuggable cunt of a mother-in-law who insists that RFK Jr. Dumped a new strain of AIDS into the Hudson River, and you're suddenly flying high again, as manically happy as can be when you know that she's back in Delaware blasting Zelensky porn full blast while developing atrophy of the knee, reclining on a lazy boy, watching The View for more hours on end. Can I get a holla for a-hole, a-bidge, holla, thank you very much. So a true Lincoln Log story, Google it. My great grandfather, Austin Goller, BFS with Abe, next door neighbors. One night, a young Abe Lincoln, also known as Trips on Logs, very knock-knee putsy, hadn't really grown into his body just yet. Trips on Logs, young Abe, not young Washington, young Abe is nervous and frantic because he lost track of time and now he's running home late for raccoon soup night. Always a big night in the Lincoln household. So Abe is running home late for raccoon soup night and he's darting, dashing across Knob Creek in Kentucky, across this slippery log, and trips on logs, slips, and falls into Knob Creek, and he starts to drown. And his BFF, Austin Goller, grabs a long branch and pulls Abe out of the water and prevents him from drowning. According to Ken Burns, the famous documentary filmmaker, this is the greatest presidential save since JFK kept Marilyn Monroe warm for Bobby. Can I get a holler for a-hole Abe? Holla, thank you very much. But the reason why Abe was a-holish was because he made this pact with Austin. He told him they made this pact, and he had Austin swear to never tell another living, breathing soul that he saved them from drowning as long as Abe Lincoln was alive. Because Abe had a vision when he was drowning in Knob Creek, and the vision that one day he was going to help liberate the black man from slavery. And he could never come across as a credible New Age Moses, liberator of slaves, if the black man knew that he was a worse swimmer than Frederick Douglass doing the doggy paddle down the Mississippi. Can I get a holla for a-hole Abe? Holla, thank you very much. Although the other reason for why Abe had Austin be tight-lipped about the greatest presidential save of all time that definitely could have scored him a higher grade of trim at the local Moonshine Shack in West Virginia or anywhere down south for that matter after he made the greatest presidential save of all time, according to most. The other reason why Abe was assholish by applying the gag order on his friends, saying, Austin, you can't tell anyone, not a single soul that saved me from drowning. Because head sharing buds just want to have fun. Holla! Cyndi Lauper lives. Fred Shabbos. Kanye excluded. Sometimes head sharing buds just want to have fun. Holla! Vince lives. Roddy Piper lives. Mr. T lives. Hey, Holish Ape lives. Can I get a holla for throwing Austin a bone? That being Goller. Holla! Hey, Hole Ape, thank you very much.